01 after the feast. The ground was filled with flesh and blood. Zhao Kuo was a child of a gangster family in a metropolitan city in 200 asterisk, and his father was the eldest brother in the Dongqing area. 25 years old, studying in the UK for 2 years. Loves beautiful women, famous cars, and history. Last year, he returned to China after his father died of illness. Faced with the crumbling territory after his father's death, the eager gaze of his gangster colleagues, and the provocation and rebellion of his father's former right-hand man, he endured it for a year and launched a carefully planned massacre of the rebels before the Spring Festival. Finally succeeded in sitting on his father's throne. But just when he was driving his expensive car and preparing to go home and open the wine cabinet to celebrate, on the viaduct his cell phone rang. "Hello." Before he could hear the reply, the front of the car shook. The whole car crashed through the guardrail at the turn of the 20-meter high viaduct and fell towards the bottom of the bridge. The cause of the car accident: the new Dongqing eldest brother was talking on his cell phone while speeding. 02, I asked you to rescue people. After an unknown amount of time, Zhao Kuo, who was lying on a piece of grass, slowly opened his eyes. What he saw was a wildflower with an unknown name standing in the middle of the green grass. "Where am I?" Zhao Kuo groaned and sat up on the grass with difficulty. He put one hand on the ground, and the other hand, holding the phone, painfully rubbed his temple. It took a while before I remembered that I had been in a car accident. At that time, I felt the world was spinning, and the concrete ground was approaching me rapidly through the windshield. I howled in horror, and then I was here. After finally turning his head and looking around, Zhao Kuo couldn't close his mouth. It was still the road in the bustling city. The air did not have the pungent smell of petroleum unique to urban roads at all. Instead, there was an extremely pure wind that could only be found in the countryside. There was a small forest behind him, grass below him, and a calm river in front of him. Even the time changed from night to day. Where's my car? Where's the overpass? Where am I? Zhao Kuo stood up in horror, stretched his muscles, and found that he was unharmed. Could it be that the BMW protected me, and the citizens, jealous of money, packed up the things in my car and threw me out in the wilderness? I've never heard of such a thing. Do the traffic police don't care? He lowered his head and glanced at his mobile phone. There was no signal at all. Zhao Kuo's eyes almost popped out. No signal. There are no base stations around. How out of the countryside is this? When he took a closer look, he was stunned because the time on his mobile phone showed 23:14 on day month asterisk year asterisk 200. It was time for him to take the last call, and the seconds were ticking forward. It's obviously nighttime. Zhao Kuo started to look around in horror, a trace of uneasiness creeping into his heart. This fact is weird. He was in a car accident. He woke up from night to day in the blink of an eye, and he was placed in the suburbs without even a mobile phone signal. He suspected that some powerful underworld enemy had attacked him. Otherwise, how could he explain such a sophisticated plan? While he was wandering, a rustling sound came from the bushes. It came very fast, running straight towards him by the river. Zhang Lizi, or Li Dasker's person? The only two gangsters who had the strength to play with him, like this flashed through his mind. Zhao Kuo gritted his teeth and picked up a stone from the ground. Whoa! The three people suddenly rushed out of the bushes and faced Zhao Kuo. With a pair of eyes, he could clearly see who was coming, whether it was Zhao Kuo or the new generation of the underworld who had nefarious intentions and had seen countless big scenes. Not only was he stunned there, he was almost staggered by this unexpected incident. Because what came was not a thug with dragons and phoenixes tattooed on his arm, nor a killer wearing black sunglasses, nor even an ordinary person, but three guys dressed in Manchu soldier uniforms. On her feet were dirty cloth shoes with no discernible background, and black leg wraps dangling in the large trousers of wrinkled coarse trousers. Her upper body was also the type of number worn by old ladies in rural areas, with the word Bing stuck on her chest. The most shocking thing is that all three of them have braids and are carrying spears and swords in their hands. When people looked at Zhao Kuo, He looked like he had seen a ghost. His 6 eyes were fixed on Zhao Kuo without even blinking. His mouth, which was panting just now, was so nervous that he could no longer breathe. It opened wide, revealing a disgusting set of black and yellow teeth, and let the sweat flow down his dark and dirty face. Zhao Kuo looked at these 3 guys who looked malnourished, smelly, and disgusting. They were probably local extras brought in by some photography team to make a movie. Slowly lowering his arm, he still grabbed the stone and didn't let go. After all, the guy in his hand was real. Never letting down his guard is a habit Zhao Kuo has developed over the past few years by keeping a low profile. Otherwise, he would have been killed long ago. Film shooting? Location? Where is this? Zhao Kuo asked. But the 3 extras looked at him as if they were possessed, but didn't say a word. Asking you? Oh, who's talking? Have you seen my car? Do you have a signal on your mobile phone? Where the hell is this? Zhao Kuo was already anxious when he saw the 3 idiots looking at him without saying a word. The more he talked, the more irritated he became. He suddenly raised his finger and pointed at each other and shouted, "It's not a stone. It's a mobile phone held in my left hand." With this violent movement, as if tourists had frightened the cormorants while taking pictures, one of the 3 extras suddenly pulled his neck and shouted, "Harry." Even though he was 10 steps away from them, Zhao Kuo could smell the bad breath coming from the roar. Then, before he could smell the horrible smell of Pinpin, the scene in front of him was jaw-dropping. He was completely petrified on the shore, holding the phone in his left hand. After this loud roar, the 3 of them turned around and rushed towards the river in unison. They even bumped into each other because they were too unintentional. The spear and knife were thrown away, but they didn't care at all, and just rushed towards the river with their heads in their hands. The 3 of them screamed and jumped into the river like dumplings. This. After watching the 3 braids rise and fall in the river for a while, Zhao Kuo, who was extremely shocked, turned his head to search for the hidden cameraman and director. But there's not even a damn thing around. At this time, a feeble cry came from the river. "Help, help." Zhao Kuo turned around and saw that out of the 3 extras, 2 could swim and were swimming forward like a dog paddle. The last one obviously couldn't swim and was bobbing on the water and beating the water desperately. It was he who made the cry for help. "You can't swim. Why the hell did you jump into the river? Are you sick?" Zhao Kuo fainted. But he has no intention of going into the water to save others. Is it worth going into the water for him, the new godfather of the underworld, to save a guy who is so poor and stupid? Even if it was worth saving, Zhao Kuo would not save him. What does it matter to me if you drown? If you follow other people's path and leave others with no way to go, if you don't have this kind of ideological cultivation, you are just a bullshit gangster. Error 500, server error. 1500, that's an error. There was an error. Please try again later. That's all we know. After a while, there was another rustling sound in the woods, and 2 people ran over. After taking a look at the visitor's outfit, Zhao Kuo smiled bitterly. The crew of the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom. The 2 men were as dark and thin as the Qing soldiers. They were wearing coarse cloth clothes. The only difference was that they had yellow cloth tied on their heads, and they were holding a bamboo-wrapped spear with an iron tip in their hands. Zhao Kuo dodged slightly to avoid the smell of sweat on the incoming man's body and pointed at the water. "Noah, the one in the river is dying, you go." Before Zhao Kuo could say the word rescue, he seemed to be struck by lightning again. He was stunned again, staring at the man with the turban and unable to close his jaw. It turned out that when they saw the 3 unlucky guys in the water, they had no intention of saving them. The one at the front waved his hand, and the bamboo grass in his hand flew away like lightning, and the pole stabbed a Qing soldier who was swimming desperately forward to death. The other one was not to be outdone, and came out like a spear, but it was not accurate enough and did not penetrate into the flesh. Instead, it passed through the braid of another Qing soldier who could swim behind his back. The sharp spear tip cut his neck, and the clear water immediately splashed with red blood. The victim covered his neck with one hand, while casting a desperate glance at Zhao Kuo behind him, and slowly sank into the river. Only the unlucky guy who couldn't swim was left in the middle of the river. When he saw these two people coming, he was like a live duck thrown into a hot water pot. He was tossed even more fiercely and sank to the bottom of the river in front of the three people. "You go. You go." The stunned Zhao Kuo seemed to have become a repeater, watching this scene happen. His whole body was shocked countless times. After killing two Qing soldiers, the two guys with their heads wrapped in yellow scarves turned to look at Zhao Kuo for a while, and looked at his underworld professional crew cut that he had just reluctantly shaved off in order to inherit his career. They looked at each other, nodded, gave Zhao Kuo a fist, and said, "This brother, is it the heaven and earth? Seeing that you have shaved off your braids, are you here to vote for the King of Heaven?" "Oh my God, you are so big. I watched you murder 3 people with my own eyes." Cold sweat trickled down Zhao Kuo's head. He was stunned for a long time, swallowing the fearful saliva in his throat. The gangsters are more afraid of death, and then said with difficulty, Actually, I just need to find a phone number." "Say something? What do you mean?" The two looked at each other in confusion, and the little man in front smiled kindly. "I have never joined the Tiandahui before, so I don't know what your jargon means." "He means looking for some work, right?" The tall man behind him smiled. "It doesn't matter if you don't join. The world belongs to the king anyway." "He has already shaved his head. Why didn't he join?" The short man looked at Zhao Kuo very strangely. Not only was he dressed strangely, but no other shaver had the same expression as his relatives. "Then please come with us for a while to prove that we have killed 3 clear demons. Also, thanks to you, we found these 3 rabbits. You haven't eaten yet, have you? We've finished the meal. Follow you? You 2 murderers? Although I have done this before, it is not so barbaric. What the hell kind of crew is this? So perverted." Zhao Kuo searched for hidden cameras over and over again, but nothing happened. At this time, he regretted it again. Why didn't he carry a gun? But as a rule, a New Age underworld boss like him never carries 2 things: guns and money. With no choice but to accept his fate, Zhao Kuo followed the 2 yellow turbans out of the woods. As soon as they came out of the woods, there was a road in the open land. Zhao Kuo was petrified again. There were people everywhere, but not all of them were alive. All the people lying on the road were dead. Staring with 2 eyes that couldn't be retracted, Zhao Kuo walked into the open space that was filled with the smell of gunpowder during the spring festival. Bodies wearing green camp clothes were everywhere. They were turned over many times in the oil pan like northern fried dough sticks. They were covered in less, with white complexions and a rotten feeling. In addition to the rotten yellow, there is a disgusting and frightening red, the color of blood. Some corpses are missing an arm, half of the body is covered in blood, some are missing half of their heads, and some are lying there with half a bamboo pole tied behind their backs. And above the rotten and disgusting yellow and red, there are people dressed as ordinary people with yellow turbans and pigtails who lower their heads to look through. They are in ragged clothes and barefoot. Everyone is wearing dirty and torn clothes. They are pulling corpses, stripping clothes, and holding blood-stained weapons and flags. Their hunched posture is like a bent-necked vulture picking carrion in the animal world. Zhao Kuo walked last, but the puzzled looks he received from those dressed like beggars made him feel as if he was being pricked by needles. This is the feeling for any human being who is suddenly put into an iron cage in a zoo and surrounded by monkeys. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, Zhao Kuo gritted his teeth, squatted down suddenly, and touched the face of the buddy on the ground with one hand. He was wearing the uniform of a Qing soldier, with one foot bare, and his face was bloody and bloody. The iron sand produced by gunpowder was all over his face, and the skin on the edges of the iron sand still had traces of blackened gunpowder. It looked very much like the lotus pod breast he had seen before, but that was PS, and this was a living Cosby lotus pod face. Zhao Kuo touched this terrible face to prove that this was a ridiculous crew, or a prank show on TV. How he hoped that when his hands touched this terrible wound, he he suddenly discovered that it was a shocking hoax. The wound was just plastic. The damn bastard carrying the camera descended from the tree, and all the people lying down jumped up and laughed at him. But when he raised his hand, his face was already twisted into a ball. What is this cold, sticky, bloody, and sticky liquid with the smell of fire and gunpowder? What's wrong? The short leader noticed Zhao Kuo's strange behavior of half-kneeling to touch the dead man's face, and asked in confusion, "What year is this?" Zhao Kuoqiang gritted his teeth to prevent himself from fainting. "The first year of Qingyao Xianfeng's reign, 1851 AD. Did you travel through time?" Zhao Kuo's eyes darkened, and he almost fell to the ground. 03 General Xixin, the powerful general of the Taiping Rebellion. A. The fastest update to the latest chapter of 1851 Far East Storm. 1 year later, on August 17th, 1852, the scorching sun beat the fire, but in the ditch under Gang City, Taiping soldiers wrapped in yellow scarves lined up in a row, holding firearms and staring straight ahead. No one wiped their sweat. The air on the ground was so hot that you could see the billowings shaking suddenly. Several dull thunders, a black cloud rising in the distance, and then a sharp howl pierced the calm, like a whip whipping the hot earth. The earth shook violently, and in the distance, in the open space in front of the trench, pieces of loess were suddenly lifted up, like a yellow breeze blowing from the plains. But the Taiping army is still as calm as water. Looking at the dark Qing army surging like a tidal wave in the distance, a general with a red vest and yellow edges in the trench stared ahead and pulled out his sword. A beast-like dull voice from his chest floated in the trench. "Don't worry about the artillery. Don't fire the gun when you lift it up, or the shotgun can't see the Qing Yao's nose. God bless us." No one turned around to salute, and everyone stared forward at the rushing Qing soldiers. The young recruits swallowed hard to let the sweat hanging on the tip of their noses fall off by themselves. The veterans responsible for raising the guns wiped the sweat from their hands on their dirty uniforms. Ever since they were ordered to guard the trench, this order had been given by Xixin General Zhao Ziwei countless times. Zhao Ziwei looked at the ridiculously far impact point of the Qing artillery and wondered whether you were hitting people or hitting dirt. He snorted disdainfully and cursed. "These pigs! He Chun, this idiot!" A few days after the Taiping army took Guiyang, the Qing troops came in force, with as many as 10,000 people. However, there were only more than 2,000 Taiping army soldiers left in Guiyang City, behind Zhao Ziwei. To be honest, when he heard the information, Zhao Ziwei was still in disbelief. He even asked Dong Wangyang Xiuqing with the information, "Is it true? How dare the fart-eating general and Chun take the initiative?" Definitely not surprised by the number of people on the other side, but surprised by whether He Chun, the commander of the Green Camp of the Qing army, drank too much and actually took the initiative to fight. He Chun's nickname in the Taiping army was General Cheating because he never dared to surround or attack the Taiping army head-on. He always followed the Taiping army's tail. The Taiping army captured the city in front, and he recovered the city from behind. In this way, he could show off his achievements to the Manchu emperor without fighting. He was really following the Taiping army to eat shit. In fact, He Chun was not the only one who was like this. Almost all the generals of the Qing dynasty played this trick. The 8 banners and Green Camp of the Qing dynasty were rotten to the bone. Bullying the common people is a first-class skill. The common people say, "The Green Camp is like a grate, and the tide is like a wash." The Green Camp passes through the border and combs the common people's property like a grate. But when they encounter the Taiping army or any rebels who really dare to fight with them, these tigers who deal with the common people immediately turn into mice, and it's up to them to run faster. Manchu literati described the bravery of Green Camp soldiers like this. Those who run away only when they see thieves are called superior bravery. Those who flee when the wind blows are called mediumly brave, and those who flee upon misunderstanding are called inferior bravery. But this time, He Chun slowly followed the footsteps of the Taiping army to capture the city and move to Chili Pavilion in Guiyang Prefecture. He happened to encounter Entai, Hu Songlin, Mi Xingqiao, and others arriving with reinforcements from Hunan and Sichuan. The Qing army increased to 10,000 men, and He Chun became a little bolder and shouted, "Work together to chase and attack the city." The Taiping army that had just captured Guiyang had already planned it with Yang Xiuqing and Hong Xiuquan. The main force was divided into two. The vanguard army and the central guard army attacked Qinzhou, while the rear army of 2,000 or 3,000 words built a position under Guiyang City, and there was a battle with Hichuan. After several salute-like bombardments from the Qing artillery, the dark Qing soldiers on the other side of the open space made a kill sound and rushed towards Guiyang City like a tide. Although he extremely despised the Qing soldiers, 10,000 people poured over the fields like black water, which also made Zhao Ziwei, who commanded the trench firearms, sweat slightly on his head. These soldiers, wearing dirty uniforms and braids, charged bravely like women. When they were 300 or 400 steps away from the trench, they started firing their shotguns randomly, like firecrackers and fried beans. Clouds of light blue smoke suddenly rose from the Qing army. Zhao Ziwei lay on the ground like the other soldiers, but sneered. If the shotgun is loaded with medicine and ammunition, it can only shoot 200 steps at most. If you release it now, are you really shooting birds? After that, he stretched out his hand and looked at the soldier lying next to him who was holding a musket and taking aim. This short guy was just a child, only 12 years old, but he had been with him for half a year. He usually served as his own soldier, but he was also extremely brave when fighting. He often used his thin body to fight spears with adults of the Qing soldiers who were a head taller than him because he couldn't use the heavy sword at all. Error 500, server error. 1500, that's an error. There was an error. Please try again later. That's all we know. Zhao Ziwei did not say you, but said you because there are many Boy Scouts in the Taiping army. If you follow the Taiping army, you can still make a living. How else can these people live? Error 500, server error. 1500, that's an error. There was an error. Please try again later. That's all we know. Report to the general. Xiao Dingzi didn't turn around at all. His childish voice carried far in the trench. Don't be afraid. Kill the demon while you are alive, and go to heaven after you die. After you go to heaven, you will eat white rice every day. Many people snickered. At this moment, the cannons mounted on the city wall behind them roared together, and the round cannonballs screamed and shot into the group of Qing soldiers. Unlike the salute-like bombardment of the Qing soldiers, every artillery shell fired by the Taiping army took away several lives. Stumped limbs and intestines rolled randomly in the trajectory of the artillery shells. Screams, wails, roars of Qing army officers scolding deserters, and the smell of gunpowder smoke filled the trenches. Come here, get ready. Zhao Ziwei held down the military flag lying on the ground under his command. The cannons on the wall behind them kept roaring, and the sound of shotguns from the Qing soldiers in front was getting closer and closer. Only the trench across the two was silent. In the crowd of people in front of him, Zhao Ziwei stared at the Qing soldier running at the front, clearly seeing the word Bing on his chest, then the ends of his flying braids, and finally his face, a dark and thin opium face. When the opium-faced man roared to kill and exposed the yellow teeth in his mouth, Zhao Ziwei suddenly raised the military flag. He roared wildly, "Kill." In the eyes of thousands of Qing soldiers who were rushing towards Guiyang City like a tide, almost instantly, a row of brightly colored military flags were erected in the quiet ditch between them and Guiyang City. It was like a crouching dragon suddenly raising its claws. Like a loud noise in an instant, a line of smoke burst out from the dragon's body. The Taiping troops in the trenches fired across the board. In an instant, a wall made of iron sand crashed into the crowd of Qing soldiers at a speed that was indistinguishable to the naked eye. Dad, the Qing soldier closest to him, whom Zhao Ziwei had been staring at as the firing coordinate, seemed to have been hit by a hammer while running. In the blink of an eye, he fell to the ground with his feet in the air.